Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.
If you go to the beach today, I mean, in Asia, I will have to tell you that almost every beach, when you're swimming, that there is so much plastic in the water.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it comes from, especially if you're on islands, a lot of it does come from people throwing trash in the river. What we find is that a lot of this trash actually comes from companies that are dumping it.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Wow.
because they have to pay to go take it to a dump site.
So they just chuck it into the river or
Yeah,
whatever.
and so if you go online, you can find videos like in Indonesia and other places where they actually just take the dump truck and they go right next to a river and they just dump
Ugh,
all of it in.
dude.
So we have that in the Philippines. Like we have typhoons
Mm-hmm.
that come through very often, and because of these little sachets that will be all over the ground and everything that people have used, when the water comes in, the storm comes in, it goes out, it goes out into the ocean. And
Yeah,
at
for
some
sure.
point, the tide brings it back onto the
Mm.
beaches. And this has been a huge problem for us here in the country to be
Mm-hmm.
able to pick that trash up, collect it. But you think about in the ocean, like when you go snorkeling or scuba diving today, I guarantee you that you'll see plastics in the ocean, even if you're, way out at some island that's away from, all the other places.
Yeah, like in Caribbean or whatever.
Yeah, and it's just horrible.
Yeah, no, I just what I want to do is because for the listener, okay, so let me just describe the photograph because they don't have an anchor to kind of keep in their in their heads. So the image that I'm looking at right now is, I mean, it looks like these things that are sticking out into the water, and they look like they're man made, like they look like they're made out of concrete,
Mm,
and it's a very kind of turbulent water from a river or something, and in it, so the water's quite brown and it's quite frothy. So there's white water, but underneath that the water's quite brown. The sort of concrete or whatever is glistening because the rock the water's kind of gone over it, and within that, floating on top of it, are like just in the view of the image, probably about 30 plastic bottles.
yep,
But of course, plastic, these bottles float. So that
I
in terms of
agree.
that garbage, that's what you're seeing. You don't necessarily see the stuff that's below the surface. So basically, one third of the image is just this image of this brown water, white water filled with this plastic junk. And
Well, it's a river coming down, and it's coming down into more of the toward the ocean.
yep,
And what you're seeing is plastic that just is getting caught in when you have these little, water coming down and coming, it creates like these little suction or areas that the plastic gets stuck in,
right, right.
and it just gets collected and it doesn't move. And this is coming down from the rivers out into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about it, if you can just see this right here, you think about how much more is out farther that's being put out on a daily basis.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a nice uplifting image.
But we don't see that.
Yeah.
And if you're not down there, you don't see how much is coming down the rivers.
Right. Right.
And this is why there's a number of organizations that have started to put nets, put up systems to help collect the plastics that are coming down rivers. I know in Indonesia and Bali, there's quite a few that have started. But when you have thousands of rivers like here in the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
it's a challenge. And when you have 7,000 islands,
Mm-hmm.
and people are not like going, oh, the average person not like, hey, let's just go throw this into the ocean or something like
Mm-hmm.
this. It's when the rain comes, it just picks it up, it puts it down. If it's in certain places, like images that I've seen where large dump trucks just come and just dump it in and it flows out. This is what's really sad. And
Sure.
people don't realize the amount of plastics that are actually going into the ocean on a daily basis.
I agree with you completely. So, have you worked with Doug Woodring? He was on the podcast as well. He's with Ocean Conservancy Alliance.
I haven't worked with him, but I know the organization.
Right. So this is one topic that in the Philippines, obviously it's visible, it's present, it's critical. So in terms of your connection within that and your own motivation, just from the little bit that we exchanged, I was dazzled by all of the things that you have your hands in. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like you really do a bazillion things. So where does if we're looking at a many-headed hydra, and this is just one head, in terms of its size, like how much of your time is dedicated to this project?
I would say right now on circular economy, probably 30% of my
Oh
time.
wow. Okay.
This is something that our group is very passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, circular economy and the environment has been something that I've been passionate about for years. I was advisor to WWF out of Singapore, helping in the region. I did work for them out of Indonesia. I've had the opportunity to be around Conservation International.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Hawaii, and in Hawaii,
Oh, you poor thing.
I know, but we were in the ocean every weekend. We were up in the mountains, and I'll tell you that the people in Hawaii care and love for the environment, and
Yeah.
the Hawaiian people, it is built into everything that they believe in. The land, everything is, and so I grew up having that influencing me. And if you look at Hawaii, Hawaii does an amazing job in keeping the waters clean,
Mm-hmm.
its beaches clean. People really are conscious of recycling. So it's
Yeah.
always been part of something. And what I'm really good at is I'm good at ecosystems. I build ecosystems. And so since I first met you, I did Creative Initiatives Foundation in Hong Kong, but we looked at the whole nonprofit sector
Mm-hmm.
and looked at the ecosystem and looked at where we need to adjust to make changes. For here in the Philippines, what I focus on the environmental side is I look at the ecosystem. Who are the key players that are already out there? How do we connect the dots? How do we build the network so that, all of us are all on the same page? Because, a lot of times nonprofits, NGOs, we get out there, we're focused, we don't always, partner and collaborate with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're also working with the government. And so there's a new law, the EPR law, that came out that went into effect that requires all companies in the Philippines to collect the same amount of plastics that they put out.
Okay.
And so what we're doing right now is that we're trying to go to all of those listed companies in the Philippines and the foreign companies that make plastics and say, look, we can partner with you and we can help you collect those plastics. So what you're doing is that you're working at different levels. You're working first at the nonprofit level, the local government unit, because there's in the Philippines trash, is big business.
Yeah.
There's always going to be bribery, there's always going to
Right.
be kickbacks and money in there, so you have to look at how you deal with that. Then you go up to the corporate level, then you go up to the government level.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're working with the whole ecosystem to say how do we make changes at every level. So that's what I love to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I get very engaged. Green Ants, the team and everything, are very much on the ground, and we've invested into them. And we're working very closely to taking them into really the across the nation here in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So that's where I focus my time on, the 30% on the environmental issues here. And it's
Mm.
fantastic because you're able to empower, to engage local individuals, communities, government. I was just with one of the governors of the 81 provinces of the Philippines, and his wife is a congresswoman, and you start to educate them and bring them along and let them be the champions.
Yep.
And that's what I've learned is, how do I identify people who are influential, who are out there, that we can make champions,
Right.
and we create the ecosystem behind them to help make a movement and change to happen.
Whoa. Well said. Um, that's a lot for the morning for you. What time is it over there now? 9 in the
It's
morning?
it's 8:30 in the
Eight
morning.
thirty. Good morning. Have you had 7 coffees?
I've had one and
Nice.
just enjoying it while I'm talking to you.
Awesome. Terry, look, should we move on to the next photo? Because
Yes.
I'm totally into conservation. One of the
Yes.
pillars of the podcast is conservation. So this is right up my alley. I am fascinated by it, and we will talk later about how people can get involved. But before we do, is there a website you want to plug?
We can go to Arowana Impact Capital
Yep.
that you can look up, and I don't know, you can type it in or put it on the
Oh, it'll be
podcast.
in the show notes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to look and see. You can look on our LinkedIn, on our Instagram. What we always try to do is we always try to provide education,
Sure.
awareness, and to push a topic.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we do this. And like I said, right now we've really focused on the Philippines. I spent 4 months this year in Indonesia. I've spent 20 years working with Indonesian foundations. And so it's also working because you think Indonesia has what, 17,000 islands? But Indonesia only makes up about 5% of all plastics.
Okay,
It's a
okay,
huge
okay.
drop. So
Interesting.
it's a different cultural
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. No, I've been to the Philippines and I know what you mean about the whole you're totally right. It's out of necessity. It's not like, oh, they're
Yeah.
choosing to buy their teeny tiny samples of shampoo and soap and whatever it is because that's what they can afford. So
Yeah. And I'll tell you that one thing that I've learned, you know that I've been in philanthropy for 30 years and I've traveled all over Asia. The Filipinos, because of having these small sachets, are probably, their hygiene is
hmm.
probably the best I've ever seen in any
Mm.
developing country.
Oh wow.
They really take care of themselves. They really take showers, and this is, by doing that, it's reduced so many health issues,
Okay.
dysentery, all these different things. So it actually makes, even though it's bottom of the pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
they're healthy and clean,
Mm.
which takes away a lot of other issues that you have for people to live.
Right,
So
right.
I only realized when I came here, you know, it's 5 pesos, 6 pesos. They can buy that, take their showers every day, wash their clothes, even though they wash them by hand. They'll put Downy or they'll do
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
but it's affordable for them because a lot of them, drive trikes, or they work,
Mm-hmm.
and they might make 100 pesos during the day. This way, each day they get cash on the day. They're able to buy this. They buy some rice and food, whatever it is, and that's
Right.
it. They have nothing else. It's day by day.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.